get out, save all their clothes as much as we can out of there and all their belongings and try to get it out of here. Get it all washed up for them. They lost everything. They had 23 inches of water in their house.
Total loss, total chaos, soaking wet, books everywhere, floating. Half of it floated out of the house. None of the kids' comfort things either. They just, everything is uncertain.
Welcome back to the World Over Live. Those were a couple of folks in Ascension Parish in Louisiana describing the devastation of this historic flooding that has caused such mayhem throughout the state over the last week. 100,000 plus people have filed for federal assistance, over 60,000 homes damaged. Joining me now to discuss the extent of that damage and what the road to recovery might look like in the next weeks and months ahead is Louisiana Senator David Vitter. Senator Vitter, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Raymond. Thanks for having me. Thanks for shining a light on this important story.
Well, you know, it's gotten so little attention nationally, even with the presidential and right. Trump visiting. I want to play people when the president arrived on Tuesday, what he had to say. Listen.
What I want the people of Louisiana to know is that you're not alone on this, even after the TV cameras leave. The whole country is going to continue to support you and help you until we get folks back in their homes and lives are rebuilt.
Senator Vitter, what has the response been from the government? I know during Katrina it was hit and miss and there was a lot of dislocation. What's happening this time around?
Well, it's been pretty good, but it's just beginning. As the president suggested, this is the long haul. This recovery is going to take months and even years. And so the key is that we stay focused on it for as long as it takes for a full recovery. So it's really just beginning. But the immediate response has been adequate, and we're building on that.
Mm-hmm. I want to play this. The president went on during those public comments. He went on a little tour, went through a few homes. He had this to say.
When we have a better sense of how much infrastructure has been damaged, what more we need to do in terms of mitigation strategies, that's when Congress, I think, may be called upon to do some more. Now, the good news is that you got 4 members of Congress right here, and a number of them happen to be in the majority. So I suspect that they may be able to talk to the Speaker and talk to Mitch McConnell.
Senator Vitter, what is your message going to be when you get back to the Capitol?
Well, we are going to do that. We're tallying up the damage right now. We're tallying up exactly what we'll need for a full and adequate recovery. And then there will be some appropriate federal response. It's going to take presidential leadership. We saw in Katrina and Rita, other hurricanes, other events, that major aid only happens when the president leads. In that case, it was Bush. Now it has to be President Obama. So it's going to take that presidential leadership. But certainly our congressional delegation on a bipartisan basis is going to be actively involved to support that getting through the Congress.
Mm-hmm. Senator Vitter, it took the president almost 2 weeks to get down there to Louisiana. Was that a mistake, and did that hurt the efforts here and focusing national attention?
Well, I wish it had happened sooner, but at least it happened recently. It did bring a big national spotlight, which was not on this story before. And this is a major event, Raymond. This is literally a 1,000-year flood event. The number of homes flooded will probably go over 100,000. It's a big, big event. And in terms of national coverage, it has not been commensurate with that event. When the president finally did come in, that did bring the media spotlight, which was positive. And that really started when Donald Trump came in the week before.
Yeah, and I'll play a bite of that in a moment. I want to stay on this issue of the federal response, what can be done, and more importantly, what are you seeing on the ground? You know, there is that story of that I'm getting from cousins and friends in the area where you've had neighbors come together, right. Black neighbors, white neighbors, neighbors who had never met before, and they're all kind of pulling together. Tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah. Well, Raymond, look, there needs to be a federal response and a government response, but the immediate response is the person-to-person response, the neighbor response that you're talking about. You're from Louisiana, you know what it's like, and that spirit has really come through in an extremely positive way. I'll give you two examples. One is the so-called Cajun Navy, and that just means hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen getting out their boats and literally going into the floodwaters immediately to rescue neighbors when necessary. That was in full force over the last 2 weeks, and thousands of people were literally rescued that way. Second example I observed yesterday when I was touring with the president in a devastated neighborhood in Greater Baton Rouge. There was one elderly woman who lived alone. She had lost her daughter several months before. She was all alone. Obviously, very difficult situation for an elderly woman who lives alone. But one of her neighbors was coming over to help her rip out sheetrock. He had his own house to tend to with his family, but this young black guy did that and helped his neighbor as well.
No, there are so many beautiful human stories in this tragedy, and they're coming forward every day. And in the wake of the shooting in Baton Rouge, some are saying this is almost, a divine restorative, that it somehow brought the community together, and that this is what it took to shake everybody to their essentials and make them realize, you're in this together.
Right, absolutely. Certainly no one would have wished this on Greater Baton Rouge or any other part of the country or the world. But it has brought folks together. That positive Louisiana spirit, neighbors helping neighbors, has come to the fore. There are literally thousands of stories like the two I just recounted. And so it has been somewhat of a healing process for Greater Baton Rouge.
Senator Vitter, you chair the Small Business Committee in the Senate, and you brought together today some of those officials from HUD, the administrator of the Small Business Administration. Tell me what that meeting was about and the importance of that in the midst of this tragedy.
Yeah, I invited and got on the ground today in the devastated area the administrator of SBA and also the secretary of HUD. I think it's really important that they, just like the president a few days ago, see firsthand on the ground exactly what's going on. The small business devastation is major. By some counts, up to 60% of small businesses that are flooded like this fail in the next year. We want to avoid that. We want to bring every SBA and other resource possible to the fore to help small business recover, because that's going to, in large part, be the metric of a full-scale economic and social recovery. So it was very positive that the administrator saw things firsthand and knows what SBA tools to bring forward to help in the response. Same thing with the HUD secretary. Housing is a huge issue. CDBG funds, other housing funds will be very important.
Yeah, people don't realize the scope of the devastation and the paperwork involved. I mean, we went through Katrina, and the bureaucracy is overwhelming to someone who's trying to rebuild their life, keep their kids in school. Any attempts to streamline that process and make those barriers, the matching funds that you have to receive federal assistance, to lower some of those matching funds, et cetera?
Well, certainly my staff and I are trying to break through that red tape all the time. And folks can come to our website. It's a good place to start, vitter.senate.gov, G-O-V, vitter.senate.gov. All the main portals, all the main categories are there: SBA, HUD, Small Business Administration, I mentioned that, FEMA, all of that. So that's a good place to start. In terms of matching funds and other hurdles, we're also trying to reduce that. The governor has already requested that the 25% match be lowered to at least 10%, if not to zero, and I'm very hopeful that that's going to happen.
I want to play something for you. This is Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. He first arrived on the scene last Friday, on August 19th. He had this to say.
It's a great place. I've had a great history with Louisiana. They need a lot of help. What's happened here is incredible. Nobody understands how bad it is. It's really incredible. So I'm just here to help.
Was that the appropriate response, Dave Vitter, and how was that received by the people of Louisiana?
It was very appropriate and was received very well. First of all, he came in with real concrete aid and a major contribution to the relief effort. So that was certainly appreciated. Secondly, he brought the national media with him, which was not here covering the story in any sort of adequate way. And quite frankly, that led to President Obama's visit and a lot more national attention. So it was very positive in that aspect as well.
Senator Vitter, there's amazingly, the Red Cross donations are low. They're just not coming in. To what do you attribute that? Is that because of the sort of non-existent media coverage of this until this week, really?
You know, Raymond, I'm not sure. I think it is because of the inadequate media coverage. I think a lot of Americans are probably somewhat disaster wary because unfortunately we've had a number of these events around the country back to back, and there are a lot of competing stories. The economy is not super, so I think all of that has added up to a less than adequate response into the coffers of the Red Cross, but I certainly want to encourage anybody who feels inclined to do that to help the Red Cross. They're on the ground. You can also volunteer personal time if you're here on the ground. You can go to volunteerlouisiana.gov and find plenty of opportunities to do that if you want to donate your time rather than just money.
Yeah, no, and we've seen an incredible reaction from people all over the state and adjoining states coming in and helping people in this moment of need. Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton issued a statement on why she has not yet visited Louisiana. She said, "This month's floods in Louisiana are a crisis that demand a national response. I'm committed to visiting communities affected by these floods at a time when the presence of a political campaign will not disrupt the response, to discuss how we can and will rebuild together." Now, Louisiana is predominantly a red state. How did this response play, Senator Vitter?
Well, not too well. I think her visit would be most welcome. I think it would be important. It would bring the media back. It would bring that spotlight back. So I think it would be very productive, and I'm sorry it hasn't happened.
All right, we'll leave it there. Anything else you would like to add that we aren't hearing of this situation, something you saw that stuck out in your mind?
Well, again, the human response, the positive coming together, the neighbor helping neighbor, has really been very overwhelming and very positive. If there's any silver lining in this negative story, that is it. And that includes a lot of folks around the country who have helped by donating, by, in some cases, coming here personally, many of your audience members. So we all really appreciate that.
Very good. Senator David Vitter, thank you for being with us, and we'll certainly keep an eye on this and be in touch.
Thank you very much, Raymond.
If you would like to help the people of Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas hit so hard by these recent floods, Lake Charles, Livingston, I mean, it is really stretched across the middle of the state. You can donate to the American Red Cross. Go to redcross.org. You can also still give to the Diocese of Baton Rouge Disaster Assistance Fund. Visit the diocesan website at diobr.org.